What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're coming over from Instagram and you've been following me on there, you already will know some of Ruger's story, but you won't know all of the details like I'm going to go into on this video. And if you just clicked on this video for the title, you can follow me on Instagram at WC3120. Again, that's WC3120. And I thank you guys for clicking on this video, and I'm going to take you through Ruger's story in detail. This is the first time I've actually told anyone other than friends or family members about what actually happened with Ruger. And I want to tell you guys that part of it because hopefully it will help you guys to recognize some of the symptoms like I experienced. Keep in mind, when we were going through these things, I didn't necessarily think too much of it, but after the fact, when he passed away and I started to connect the dots, it started to really make sense. But basically, it just sucks because there was nothing I could do about it at that time. But I want to tell you guys those things so that you can maybe recognize those things ahead of time. And then I'm going to go into some research. So I'm quickly going to tell Ruger's story. I'm going to go into my research that I conducted and what I came up with, which is right here. So if you see me looking down, I'm going to read you some stuff on Apoquel and why I think it killed my dog. Now, to tell Ruger's story, Ruger passed away when he was 3 years old. Had allergies his whole life. Pretty bad allergies, like to the point where, he'd chew on his feet. His skin was always red, especially around his feet. His ears were bothering him all the time, like constantly. And we tried other things our vet recommended. And eventually we got around to getting prescribed Apoquel. Now, he was on Apoquel for, I want to say, a year total of his life. Like, he was on it for 1 year, and even that, he was on it a little bit less than that because, for example, in the wintertime, his allergies would get better. So during that time, we would take him off the medication. We would take him off, quit giving him Apoquel completely, and we'd just give him, over-the-counter medication for allergies like any human would take. And that was told to us by the vet. So we took her advice and we limited Apoquel when we could. So he was actually on it for less than a year. So keep that in mind when I start telling you the facts here on the research. But to go on with his story, some of the red flags, like I said, I didn't see them all at the time, but now they definitely stand out as red flags when you go back and you think about what was going on with him and what happened. And the first red flag was he started having seizures. Now, he only had three that I know about. And I didn't think too much about it at the time because for two of them, I was traveling with Monster Jam. I wasn't home at the time. I didn't get to physically experience them. I was going off of what my girlfriend was telling me on the phone and trying to decide if that's actually what happened through her description or what. So I kind of had my doubts. Like I said, I would have been a lot more solid on it had I seen it myself. But the thing about it was they were very, very spread out. Like, he had one seizure, and it wasn't a very long one. It was maybe 15 seconds, and then a couple months would pass. I think maybe 2 or 3 months. I don't know on the actual timeline. But then he had another one, and again, I wasn't home for that one either. And I was only home for one of them, and I can tell you, he had like a blank look in his face. His eyes would glaze over, and he kind of would just start shaking. He was laying down already at the time. his head would start shaking just a little bit back and forth like this. His paws were going like back and forth, and it only lasted about 20 seconds, but then he wouldn't know where he was at when he woke up. Like he didn't know what was going on, and neither did we. So again, just watch out for that. We didn't think too much of it at the time because they were very spread out and they weren't actually affecting his day-to-day life or his life at all, really, except when he was having the actual seizures, because he was a very energetic dog. You never knew that he was sick. Even in his last month of life, you couldn't have looked at him and known that he was sick. Very high energetic dog, loved to play. Even to the very end, he was very, very energetic. And the only seizure that I got to experience, which was the last one that he had, and it was actually on the day that we had the vet come out to the house to have him put down, and that's when it kind of sealed the deal for us that we made the right decision to put him down, because that one was a lot scarier of a seizure and lasted longer. It was a little bit lower on energy. Day-to-day life, you didn't really notice it, but when I really noticed it after the fact again was we used to take him on walks, and we would always go certain distances, and we'd reach a point, we'd turn around and come back to the house. I went to take him on a walk one day, and we only got like a quarter of the way of the distance that we normally get to, and he was just tired. He was breathing heavy, heavier than normal, and at that point I kind of wondered, what is going on with him, like, because he was a very athletic, in shape dog, very big dog, but he was in shape. Like, we took him on walks a lot in the summertime, and he played all the time, and he was a healthy looking dog, and he was very healthy, or so we thought. Last thing that we noticed, and this is really what brought us to actually take him into the vet and caused us to get our biggest fears realized, was he started having trouble breathing. Now, not so much during the day. Like, you couldn't notice it when he would still play, he'd still be himself, full of energy, play all the time, but when he would, because he slept in the bed with us, when we would be getting ready for bed at night, and Ruger would be on the bed, and he was pretty quick to fall asleep. He was always the first one to sleep. But you could just hear, it was like if you had a cold, when you have a cold and you're laying in bed at night and your nose is all stuffed up and you got to breathe through your mouth and you just sound kind of heavy breathing, like you're having trouble getting air. That is what it sounded like. Like, it sounded like he was struggling to breathe, and it was more so than just his normal snoring, because he snored pretty loud, but this was different. And I only let that go for like 3 days, literally. Like, I said, okay, this isn't right, we need to go get this checked out. And so 3 days was all I waited, and that is not, to me, that was just enough time to make sure it was a problem, make sure he didn't have a cold or something, and just see if he didn't get better. Because like I said, during the day, he was totally fine, so I didn't think it was anything serious. And come to find out, when we went to bring him to the vet, I was at work, and got a phone call, and they thought it was something very serious, and we were hoping that it wasn't going to be, but come to find out, he has stage 4 lymphoma cancer. There's really no option for treatment. There's nothing they can do. He's going to die at that point. So after they told us that, we just decided that we're going to let Ruger go on his own terms and let him live his life. And the last month of his life was his best month ever. I mean, he was getting car rides, he got ice cream a lot, we went on a lot of walks. our neighbors took him out on the lake on their boat. He met their dogs, like he was friends with their dogs. Everybody loved him. Everybody was just getting to know him in the neighborhood, and that's what sucks. You know, about the whole deal was he was just starting life. He was only 3 years old, and he was just starting to grow out of his puppy phase. And so I just wanted to tell you those things. Those were kind of what his story is in detail and things to watch out for. And now, without further ado, I'd like to take you to my research here, and this is going to be very eye-opening for anybody. First off, if your dog is currently on Apoquel, do not continue it. Like, quit. I don't care how bad their allergies are. You need to stop giving your dog Apoquel right now, and this is why. So going into this research, first off, I want to tell you guys about what Apoquel says about their drug, directly from Apoquel's website. Okay, so here we go. Apoquel may, remember that word, may increase the chances of serious infections and may cause pre-existing cancers to get worse. Now, why would they say that? Why would that be a disclaimer on their website? Let me read it again to you. May increase the chances of serious infections. May cause pre-existing cancers to get worse. Basically, they're covering their ass because they know already that it's going to increase the chances of serious infections, and they're using the term pre-existing cancers because they know that if there's a good chance that it will give your dog cancer over the long-term period of time. So take that for exactly what it is. That's a bunch of bullshit right there. Fast, effective, and safe. Fast, effective, and safe, directly from their website, okay? It is fast, and I'll get to how fast later on. It is effective. It does work. It will quit. Your dog will not have any allergy symptoms, but it will have allergy symptoms later, and this is what I mean by this. What happened with Ruger and other dogs, there's plenty of research on this that I read when I was doing all this research. And I'll tell you exactly how fast it works in a minute, but it does work. But what happens is, over a long period of time, we'll say 3 to 6 months to a year plus, when you start getting in that range, in most dogs, it actually quits working. Like, it doesn't have the same effect as it had when you first started giving your dog Apoquel. Now let's get to the third part of that statement, safe. It's safe to give your dog. It's not safe to give your dog, and I'm going to get to more reasoning why later. But then it goes on, and again, these statements here are directly from Apoquel's website. It goes on to give a list of side effects, and those include side effects as vomiting and diarrhea may occur. This is funny. This is actually almost comical right here. Then it says, side effects stop on their own. Did I read that right? Yeah. It says the side effects just magically stop on their own. What the fuck? I don't think so. Okay? That's all I got to say about that. It lists some side effects, and then it tells you that they're just going to stop on their own. How much sense does that make? Okay, so now that we've discussed a little bit about Apoquel's warnings directly from their website, I wanted to kind of just tell you guys a little bit more about the company itself and where they came from. Born on the loins of the world's largest drug maker, Pfizer. Big surprise there, right? Their former division, Zoetis, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but the makers of Apoquel is spelled Zoetis, is now the animal health giant that brought you the much-touted Wonder Drug, to the market in 2014. Okay, so this stuff came out in 2014. Any guesses on how much money it made? Well, I'm about to tell you. In 2012, it made this company, this drug company, made $4.3 billion. That was before they even came out with Apoquel. I would hate to know how much money they have today and how powerful they are today. And that's the thing, guys, with big drug companies like this. I'm not going to be able to stop them. I'm just making this video so that you guys can quit supporting them and quit giving your dog this dangerous drug that I believe killed my dog. Okay, so we talked a little bit earlier about how fast it works, because that was one of their selling points, was it works fast, effective, and safe, remember? And I got my dog wanting to come up here, Draco. Hey buddy, say hi to YouTube. Say hi. Look, say hi. Get down. It's my new dog, Draco. He's adopted, rescued from the shelter, and he's been a really good dog. He's probably the most well-trained dog I've ever had. So, just a side note, if you guys are thinking about getting a dog, he's a Pit Bull Great Dane mix, and you need to rescue or adopt. Do not buy from the stores. He's heavy. Oh, get down, man. I gotta finish this. So we're gonna talk about how fast it works. Provides onset relief within 4 hours. Effectively controls itch within 24 hours. Starts working in 4 hours and basically controls your dog's itching in less than 24 hours. Okay. So moving on, this is research done to test Apoquel's safety and efficiency. Now this was research that was conducted by their own company, the maker of Apoquel, and this is what they said about Apoquel. There were no fatalities and no abnormal health events that necessitated hospitalization in either the study phase, 0 to 7 days, or the continuation phase, 8 to 28 days of the study. Given that the majority of dogs in the placebo group withdrew after the completion of the study phase, the incidence of abnormal clinical signs was similar in both groups. Now, I know that's a lot to digest at once, but then it lists a table of the most common side effects from taking the drug. It lists diarrhea, vomiting, lethargy, anorexia, and polydipsia. Okay, and then it gives percentages of how many of the dogs got these things. And basically, they're selling you on this point that it's safe. They're showing, diarrhea, vomiting, lethargy. That's stuff that any dog can get. Pretty common side effects from really just if they ate something wrong, or so there's no alarming side effects that they're trying to sell you on. And that's what it says here at the bottom of this article. So it seems from these comments and looking at the data on table 3 that the adverse side effects are minimal. So the drug seems fairly safe. But you probably didn't catch this the first time I read their statement. So the duration of the study, if you go back and you re-listen to what I just read you, the duration of study was 7 days. They tested this stuff on dogs for 7 days and come up with, yes, they get diarrhea, they vomit, they're lethargic, anorexia, and polydipsia. I don't even know what polydipsia is, but the time period of which they tested dogs was 7 days. Do you think that's enough time to really know what the drug will do to your dog? Because I don't. Then they state there was a continuation phase after the 7-day study period, which was from 8 to 30 days, the research reports. So basically, after the 7 days, they continued a continuation phase of the study for a month. So they studied it for a month after the first 7 days. And what they found at the end of that month was this. These are the statistics, and these are facts. About 6% of the dogs studied had abnormal health events, which doesn't seem very high. But that's for 1 month. So the number of dogs they tested, for 1 month, 6% of those dogs had abnormal health events during that study. And this is a statement. I don't know if this is true to this day. There's probably more research, but I only researched this like a couple months ago, so I'm pretty sure that this is still current. But nobody has tested the safety of Apoquel for more than 30 days. And yet, if your dog takes the drug, he could be on it for years. That is true. Once you give your dog Apoquel, chances are he's probably not going to respond to anything else. And like I said, it's not worth the risk. I don't know if we haven't got all the way through this yet, but it is just not worth the risk, so discontinue use immediately. They do state on their website and in this study that if your dog is under 12 months old, to not use Apoquel. Okay? That's because when they conducted the margin of safety studies on 6 to 12-month-old dogs, they had to discontinue the study for 6-month-old dogs when the dogs developed bacterial pneumonia and depidemic mange infections. Okay, so they tried to do a study on dogs that were less than a year old, and the results were so extremely bad that they had to quit doing it, and then they put out a warning to not give your dog this medication unless he's past a certain age. And if you want to know some of the symptoms on the dogs that were given Apoquel that were under a year old, this is very, very interesting, and here they are. Warts. The dogs developed abrasions, scraping, cuts, dermatitis related symptoms, edema of feet, and here's a very interesting one, particularly in my case, and it's hard for me to pronounce, but basically abnormal, I can't even say it, lymphadenopathy. Sorry, that's butchered, but abnormal or swollen lymph nodes is what that is. Abnormal or swollen lymph nodes. My dog passed away from stage 4 lymphatic cancer. So I think it goes a little beyond the 6 to 12 month range, wouldn't you say? Okay, now another interesting thing, and I'm sure you might not have caught this either when I just read those side effects, was one of them was dermatitis related issues, which basically skin issues. So some of the side effects on the various types of skin disease in these dogs I don't know how to say it, but this medicine is supposed to prevent skin issues that are caused through allergies, and yet one of the side effects is creating more skin issues. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't even know what to say about that. And here's where the drug is dangerous as well. The drug was also found to lower white and red blood cell count and affect certain types of lymphatic tissue and lymph nodes as well as bone marrow. Now, do you think that's what maybe killed my dog? I do. It's not worth the risk. And I'm not going to go into on this video. I want to backtrack a second. I'm just giving you guys facts of why not to use the medication. If you want scientific reasoning and it explained fully to you, I'm not going to do that. Basically, I'll just give you the nitty gritty. Apoquel works because it suppresses your dog's immune system. It basically, one article I read, it kills your dog's immune system, and that's more accurate, I've found from all the research that I've done, because it is so strong at damaging your dog's immune system that it just breaks it down. Your dog can't fight. That's why these diseases that I'm reading are becoming common, because your dog's body won't be able to fight those diseases, and it's just not worth the risk. And then this is coming straight from a vet, and this is a quote from this article. Sometimes I feel like the world of modern medicine has gone mad. 1 in 2 dogs is getting cancer. And yet, here is a new anti-itch drug that not only opens up the door to cancer, but hangs up a welcome sign as well. So she's saying that 1 in 2 dogs is getting cancer in today's world, And like I just explained to you, this drug is so strong at killing your dog's immune system that it's just opening up the doors, it's opening up the floodgates for cancer to come. I'm going to move on to another study, and stick with me on this one, guys. Okay, I believe that my dog got lymphatic cancer directly through Apoquel, but in this study right here, cancer was not the most negative side effect. Dogs in this particular study developed severe infections and pneumonia, also noted to the extent in some cases that the trial had to be stopped for these animals. Now, this was a study to see if Apoquel was safe. So basically, they had to stop giving the dogs the medication because they have developed such severe infections and pneumonia. I mean, that's pretty serious. When a person gets pneumonia, it can be fatal. Same thing with dogs. And then another statistic on this study: upwards of 10% and possibly closer to 20% of animals had significant reactions that compromised quality of life as a result of this medication. So this study right here, 20% of the dogs that were given Apoquel had negative effects to the point where it affected their quality of life. And what that means is it will affect their day-to-day normal life. Like, your dog won't be able to do things that other dogs do and most dogs do. If you start taking down your dog's quality of life, then you may as well not have that dog, and you might have to get it put down, basically, if it gets bad enough. And here's some more honest truth on Apoquel. It has a fearsome list of direct effects. Now, this stuff, where I got this stuff is directly from a vet. Okay, that's where these statistics here are coming from. I just want you guys to know that, directly from a vet. It has a fearsome list of direct effects. And to create that much cancer and pneumonia in a tiny study group of no more than 500 dogs is scary, she says. Okay, so they tested 500 dogs, and they're creating abnormal side effects, they called them, in 20% of the animals. Here we go with another statistic. Better than 12% of all dogs given Apoquel developed pneumonia, bullous foot, and node infections, and any one of a dozen cancers directly related to Apoquel. A dozen different cancers in this study directly relating to the dog being given Apoquel. My dog passed from lymphatic cancer. You think Apoquel had something to do with it? Again, numbers don't lie. When they went from clinical to field trials, 6% of the study got cancer. So they were in clinical trials. I don't know the period of time. They went to field trials. Again, it doesn't list the period of time, but 6% of the dogs got cancer. Infections were essentially twice as common. So not only did they get cancer, they doubled their infections at 10%, almost doubled. 12% would actually be doubled, but 10% of the dogs also got serious infections that were life-threatening. And then she says, in a nutshell, like I was explaining to you earlier, it's too immunosuppressive, which means it will kill your dog's immune system, opening it up for cancer, opening it up for these other diseases that I've listed. And like I said, I can't stress this enough, it is not worth it. I don't care how well it works. I think, honestly, it killed my dog, and it will kill yours too if you give your dog Apoquel long enough. Now, I do want to talk about my vet, okay? My vet did a great job. I still use the same vet today. And I live in a very, very small town, okay? And she had been prescribing this medicine since it came out. And she, after my dog passed, she said that she was done prescribing Apoquel because she had another dog that was super young pass away from the same type of cancer. And when our dog passed, she said that she was done prescribing Apoquel, and she was going to call everybody who was on her client list to come in, and so that she could try and convince them to discontinue use immediately. The reason I'm telling you guys that is because, like I said, I'm from a very small town. 2 dogs have already been killed through having cancer, and if that doesn't, I mean, when I say small, I mean really small. So there's not like thousands of dogs in the area. I would hate to know how many more are developing as I speak. Side effects, serious side effects directly related to taking Apoquel. Hopefully she made those calls, and hopefully the owners decided to go against Apoquel and discontinue use immediately. And the most painful thing about all this is it could have been prevented. I encourage you guys, before you go to give your dog medication, to research it yourself. This is something that I do every time now, but I just made a mistake. I didn't think, allergy medication. You don't think that allergy medication is going to kill your dog. You just don't. I mean, if the number one thing I can tell you guys, first off, is discontinue Apoquel if your dog is taking it right now. Like, go get them prescribed something else. Do not take Apoquel under any circumstances. The risks far outweigh the rewards, and I believe strongly that it will kill your dog. Straight up. Like, if it doesn't die from cancer, it's going to get some other type of disease, immune disease, whether it's pneumonia or any of those other ones I talked about, it's going to get something that its body will not be strong enough to fight off, because Apoquel will weaken your dog's immune system so much, and then it will die. But the second thing is, do your own research. Don't give your dog anything until you do your own research. The drug company, the drug industry is just a huge industry, and we're not going to stop it. So the best thing that we can do is educate ourselves. And then the last thing that I ask of you guys, and I appreciate you guys watching this, thank you for coming here. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for watching this. But I need you guys to like this video and share this video, because I'm trying to get the word out there. I know I'm not the only one that shares this opinion. I know there's probably been many people around the world affected by Apoquel, that it has killed their animals or has caused their animals to have a less better life. But I want to spread this to as many people as I can, because I don't want anyone to go through what I had to go through. That was one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do, ever, to be honest with you. I've had dogs put down before, but never like this, and it really bothered me because of how young Ruger was, and he had his whole life ahead of him, and it just really sucks. But I learned from it, and hopefully this video will shed some light. Hopefully there's some of you out there that it will prevent. Maybe your vet will prescribe Apoquel in the future, and you'll be like, no, I'm not doing that. But please, please, please share this video. We need to get it to as many people as possible. But thanks, guys. I appreciate you guys watching this.